we're back on another edition of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. My name is Jonathan Howe, at Jonathan On Air. That's where you can find me on the socials, and at SODS_POD is where you keep up with all things Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. This is, I think by my count, this should be episode 90, which is, we got to name our my old pal Travis Cunningham for the episode 90 edition of the podcast here. So pretty appropriate considering we are going to be recapping the Gary Cunningham Memorial. But before we get into the race report, we should talk about the fact that this show is brought to you by Van Sickle Pet Value and Lundy's Lane Pet Value. Check them out, not just for your four-legged best friend, but they are your friend for race days as well at Merrittville Speedway, where you can grab your race day tickets ahead of time, stopping in store and beat the lineups at the box office. You get to just walk up right to the gate, hand your ticket off, and you are good to go for Saturday nights. You check them out. Van Sickle Pet Value can be found 420 Van Sickle Road in St. Catharines, right across from the Best Buy in that same plaza off of 4th Avenue. And you can also find Lundy's Lane Pet Value at the corner of Lundy's Lane and Kayla Road in Niagara Falls. It's on Highway 20, basically, right. You take that right up towards the racetrack. Perfect. There you go. Okay, so let's jump right into it with the Southern Ontario Dirt Show race report. Let's start with Merrittville Speedway and go back to June 15th. Luke Carlton and Scott Wood started from the front row for the Jerry Winger 50-lap memorial with the commercial auto electric 358 modifieds. After a lap 23 restart, Gary Lindberg and Chad Brockman dueled for the second spot, including some contact that resulted in Brockman spinning in turns 3 and 4, which forced the yellow back out on lap 28. On the restart, Lindberg, carrying some cosmetic damage from the clash with Brockman, made his move to get to the front. Lindberg was able to survive a restart on lap 35, while Fred Carlton battled with Pete Bicknell for the second spot. Lindberg claimed his third win on the year and second in major events after winning the Ivan Little Memorial 2 weeks prior. Carlton and Bicknell finished on the podium with James Reason and Brad Rouse running at the top 5. Cody McPherson has made a habit of winning races with a little extra meaning to him. The driver who entered the night unbeaten in the Seminex Esso Baron Roofing Dirt Car Sportsman in 2024 at Merrittville was looking to add the inaugural Al Willard Memorial 35 lap feature to his trophy case, an event celebrating the legacy of his grandfather. After a string of early cautions, McPherson took the lead on lap 9. On lap 21, McPherson had a nearly 2-second advantage erased by a spin from Dan McKay. McPherson led on the restart, but Brett Senek maintained pressure as the two leaders entered lap traffic. Senek closed to within a car length and looked poised to make the winning move before lap traffic forced him out of his preferred lane, and McPherson was able to increase the margin enough to hold him off as the laps wound down. McPherson picked up his 5th win on the year, with Senek second, Adam Leslie third, Billy Bleach Jr. fourth, Taylor Vanderzand, and running a throwback scheme to his dad, actually finished in 5th. Cohen Corbett and Chris Watson led the field of green in the Rona Deutsch Mod Lights, with Corbett out to an early lead. The previous week, we saw Ryan Anderson pick up his first career win, and Corbett, who has shown incredible growth as well in the last year and a half, looked to do the same. This week, however, it would not be easy for Corbett, as a caution with 4 laps to go placed the defending track champion Brent Bangelow on his back bumper for the restart. Corbett timed it perfectly and managed to comfortably build a gap to see the checkered first for the first time in his career. Bangelow came home second, with RJ Pitts, Josh Slater, and Leroy Buscombe rounding out the top 5. Stan Zankin and Doug Gordon were the class of the NRVRS vintage car field, starting on the front row together after winning their heat races. The drivers traded the lead multiple times, but Gordon had a little extra motivation to go out and win. His wife, Judy, had already received the CAA Dedication to Racing Award earlier in the evening, and Doug made it a family affair by capturing the checkered flag ahead of Zankin. Bill Perfata finished 3rd, with Chip Ortiz finishing 4th, and Jens Mortensen in 5th. The first time winner mojo continued on in the Van Sickle Pet Value PV on the lane 4 cylinders. Mason Anderson drove his way up towards the front of the field, finding the lead before another caution on lap 7. Anderson would survive another restart with 6 laps to go in the feature, holding off defending track champion Alex Riley and Austin Worstrow to score his first career win. Randy Alway and Olivier Larocque finished 4th and 5th, respectively. Now let's jump to this past Saturday, which was June 22nd at Merrittville Speedway. Feature racing began with the commercial auto electric 358 modifieds, who first contested the previously fogged out feature from May 18th. Dylan Davidson started from pole with Jay Mallory to his outside. Cautions fell early and often, leading to 10 cars retiring from the race. Recent guest Shane Pierce, who started fifth, used the restarts to his advantage to get to the front before a caution on lap 8. The final 20 laps of the feature ran green, and Pierce steadily built up an advantage on second place Carlton. Pierce was able to break through to win his first feature in the modifieds at Merrittville. Carlton was second, Davidson finished third, Pete McNell fourth, and Gary Lindberg finished in fifth. In the second feature of the night later on, Kyle Rickner and Scott Wood started on the front row. However, neither driver would be able to finish the race. Much like the first feature was slowed by multiple yellow flag incidents, this one saw crash damage and mechanical failures lead to 11 cars retiring from the field. Justin Sharp had control of the event for many of the laps run. However, after a restart with 2 laps to go, Sharp's car sputtered on the backstretch, allowing Freddie Carlton to get through to take the lead. Carlton held off Noah Walker on the final restart of the night and picked up another win on the year. Walker crossed the line in third, but was moved forward to second after Gary Lindberg received a penalty for rough driving while making a pass on Walker on the last lap. Luke Carlton, Todd Gordon rounded out your top 5 in that one. The Road Dodge Mod Lights had contested 5 feature events on the year heading into Saturday night at Merrittville Speedway. Chance Kotar started from the pole and led the race early, trying to follow in the tire tracks of Cohen Corbett and Ryan Anderson and pick up his first career win in 2024. However, veteran Josh Slider worked his way forward from 10th after a caution for debris on lap 7. He found himself in the lead. Joe Isabel, who started in 12th, also worked his way forward and gave chase to Slider for much of the race before settling into second. Slider became the first repeat winner on the year in the Mod Lights. Tyler Winger, Brent Bigelow, and RJ Pitts completed the top 5. Corey Turner started from pole for the Gary Cunningham Memorial as the Southern Ontario Sprints made their second stop at Merrittville Speedway this year. Turner quickly drove off from the outside pole sitter Tyler Pallas, setting a blistering pace to the 25-lap feature. The pace was briefly interrupted at the race's halfway point for a caution when a car slowed with a mechanical failure before limping into the pits. The restart was welcomed by Dylan Westbrook, who had not lost a race on the SOS schedule in 2024 yet, as he was able to gain some track position and pass his way up to second. Westbrook would run out of time, and Turner would hold on to grab the win and the $3,000 check for the top step of the podium. Liam Martin finished third, and Matt Farnham and Ryan Turner finished fourth and fifth, respectively. In the Hoosier Stocks, it was a 3-car battle right down to the end that settled the win. Jason Fontaine and Mark Fawcett battled side by side for multiple laps after a restart on lap 14. While they raced, Dave Bailey caught the lead 2 cars and began to work his way, at least trying to find a way around those front 2. Fawcett cleared Fontaine, while Bailey drove up to challenge Fontaine. They raced side by side to the checkered flag for second, with Fontaine coming out on top behind Fawcett, who picked up his 3rd feature win at Merrittville Speedway in 2024. Kyle Bellryan and Pete Reed also finished inside the top 5. The Vansicle Pet Value PV on the lane 4-cylinder feature saw a few big crashes in the race's first half. Ray Sorenzi and Sam Iftati hooked together on the front stretch, leading to a big impact into the outside wall. Hannah Rothwell, who also wrecked hard in a rollover the previous week, took another big hit on lap 7 when her and another car tangled on the exit of turn 4 for another impact into the outside front stretch wall. On the restart, Ken Hare was tasked with holding off Alex Riley, Josh Demetro, and Mason Anderson, who all took turns attempting to take the lead from Hare in the closing laps. However, no one got alongside, and the Niagara Falls driver took the win, his second on the year. Riley was second with Anderson, Demetro, Sierra Cuse rounding up the top 5. Over to Ohsweken Speedway, where on June 14th, the ROC Sportsman joined the card. The 25-lap Sportsman Modified A main began with Craig Hanley on pole and Noah Mamo starting alongside. Cody McPherson made quick work of both of them, leading the first lap after starting 4th on the grid. The race ran caution-free. Despite the hard battling in the midfield, McPherson had to deal with traffic near the end of the race. However, he navigated through it, losing little time and winning the race by a fair margin. Next across the finish line was James Friesen in second. Mamo was third. Chad Chevalier finished 4th, and Adam Leslie in 5th. In the 360 sprints, the front row of the grid featured Darren Dryden and Dylan Westbrook. To begin the 25-lap 360 sprint car A main, Westbrook led the first lap, overtaking Dryden. Corey Turner turned up the wick on the opening laps, threatening Westbrook's lead. Westbrook responded by putting a large gap between himself and Corey Turner as they both had to steer through heavy traffic. With 5 laps to go, Westbrook was checked out with a 4-second lead over Corey Turner. Westbrook secured the victory, his 4th in a row, to remain undefeated at Ohsweken in 2024. Corey Turner finished in 2nd, with his brother Ryan Turner again sharing the podium with him. Rounding out the top 5 were Mike Bowman in 4th and Nick Sheridan in 5th. Jonah Mutton started on pole alongside Steve Murdoch to take the green flag in the 20-lap crate sprints A main. Murdoch led the opening laps until a caution flag fell due to A.J. Lewis spinning to a stop in turn 3. Murdoch led a smooth restart to green while Brent Bigelow got around Mutton. Bigelow used traffic to his benefit, quickly catching the leader Murdoch by lap 12. Bigelow went on to win his first career crate sprint feature. Rounding out the top 5 were Murdoch in 2nd, Mutton 3rd, Al Slate 4th, and Ashton Van Every in 5th. Kyle Andrus started on pole with Blake Bomberry Jr. starting next to him for the 20-lap Thunderstock A main. Bomberry led the first lap and quickly put a gap on the field. Ron Logie charged through the field from 16th on the grid. Lap 9 saw a caution flag fall, and Logie had a great launch off the restart, overtaking Bomberry for the lead. This proved to be the key to win the race, as no one could catch Logie when he was in clean air. Logie picked up his first win at Ohsweken Speedway. Rounding out the top 5 were Ryan Beagle in 2nd, Kyle Wirt 3rd, Rodney Rutherford 4th, and Jim Lampman in 5th. Aidan Maynard and Christopher French brought the 28-car field to the green flag for the mini stock A main. Fabio Oliveri rocketed ahead and assumed the lead on the first lap after starting 3rd on the grid. The race quickly became an endurance test, though, as 9 caution flags fell during the event. The final caution of the race brought a green-white checkered finish. Wade Thorne prevailed in a 3-wide finish to take the win, with Jeff Elsliger taking 2nd and Tristan De Silva 3rd. The 360 sprints were off June 21st at Ohsweken, and in place were the late models. Jumping ahead to the next week, the 360 sprints were off June 21st at Ohsweken, and in the place of them were the late models. The 25-lap open late model A main began with Greg Haskell on the pole, with Brad Simpson starting alongside. Haskell had a great start and led the first 6 laps. Charlie Sandercock began to ramp up the pace once the racing resumed, putting 3 seconds between himself and the field and eventually finding the finish line first. Rounding out the top 5 were Brian Spielman in 2nd, Andrew Room in 3rd, CJ Field finished 4th, and Craig Graham in 5th. Sheldon Bender started on pole alongside Ken Hamilton to take the green flag for the 20-lap crate sprint A main. Brett Stratford had a brilliant start and took the lead after starting 6th on the grid. In the closing lap, Stratford's lead was diminishing as he tried to navigate traffic, bringing Matt Billings and Jesse Costa ever so close to him. Costa made a last lap push for the lead, squeaking by Stratford on the final turn for the win. Stratford had to settle for 2nd, with Billings in 3rd. Ashton Van Every and Bender rounded out the top 5. 8 and 9 started on pole with Tim Phelan next to him for the 20-lap Thunderstock A main. Phelan led the first lap and put a gap of 1 second between himself and the rest of the pack. Dave Bailey made a mad dash through the field after starting 14th on the grid and was up to 2nd by lap 6. The 10th lap saw a caution flag, which allowed Bailey to claim the lead on the restart. Bailey began to lose his lead to Ryan Beagle, who advanced to 2nd. The final caution of the race arrived with 6 laps to go. Bailey conceded his lead to Beagle on the restart, which allowed Beagle to lock down the win. Bailey finished in 2nd, while Ron Logie was 3rd, Jim Lampman was 4th, and Kyle Wirt came home 5th. Tim DeBoer and Sean Taylor brought the 28-car field to the green flag for the mini stock A main. DeBoer held the lead in the opening laps until a yellow flag on lap 4 due to a pileup in the middle of the field. DeBoer stayed strong, retaining his lead on the restart despite Ken Hare applying tremendous pressure on him. With 6 laps left to go, a final caution fell, making the race into a sprint to the finish. This time, however, DeBoer couldn't keep his lead as Hare overtook him. Ken Hare had just 1 lap left to go, but got passed at the finish line by Jeff Elsliger for the win by just under 0.2 of a second. Finishing in 3rd is Nick Erskine. Alex Riley finished 4th, and DeBoer finished in 5th. Let's check on our Canadian contingent across the ditch, where the Northeast late models brought a few of our contenders south of the 49th parallel to race at the Big R on June 14th. Nathan Rinaldi and John McIntyre were on the front row for the Vanderland Building Products Northeast Late Model Alliance main event, with Rinaldi going 3 wide with McIntyre and Charlie Sandercock. Sandercock took over the top spot. Over the final 10 laps, Sandercock would pull away from the field and go on to collect the checkered flag. Phil Vigneri and Matt Williamson brought the Crown Undercoating 358 Modifieds to the green flag for their 30-lap feature, with Williamson taking the lead on the start. Eric Rudolph and Chad Brockman would battle for third for several laps. Ryan Susi would close in on Vigneri for second place. Eric Rudolph reignited the battle with Chad Brockman that he had earlier in the event on lap 21, when Rudolph would get in front of Brockman on lap 22. Williamson would go on to score the win, the 27th of his career at the Big R. Nigel Pendekoski would go on to score his second straight feature win in the Novice Sportsman that night. The Chippewa native also picked up another win a week later on June 21st. Meanwhile, another Canadian kept up his winning ways at Ransomville. Ricky Newton and Cody McPherson were on the front row for the Sterling Lubricants Dirt Car Sportsman main event on June 21st, with McPherson jumping into the lead ahead of Newton in lap traffic. McPherson would drive away from the field to earn the victory, his 14th of his Ransomville sportsman career, tying him with Stuart Friesen, Al Wagner, and Greg Martin for 13th all-time. Noah Walker and Gary Lindberg brought the Crown Undercoating 358 Modifieds to green, with Lindberg showing the advantage. Chad Brockman would catch Noah Walker, and they would battle for second place, with Walker holding off Brockman. Lindberg would drive away to the victory, his third of the season. Dalton Slack and Matt Williamson finished 4th and 5th, respectively. In short track Super Series modified action, St. Catharines native Matt Williamson finished 3rd at Devil's Bowl Speedway, June 16th, behind Mark Johnson and Matt Shepard. Stuart Friesen finished in 5th, with Quebec resident Felix Waugh in 11th. Chris Robbie of Alexandria, Ontario, was in 14th in that one. Quebec drivers Francois Belmar and Daryl Mitchell also made the show, finishing 22nd and 25th. 2 nights later, on June 18th, the Mons were back in action at New Egypt Speedway, where Friesen finished 2nd, while Williamson came home 11th. Meanwhile, the big blocks got back at it this past week. On a night honoring the Hall of Fame motorsports journalist Don Davies at Albany, Saratoga, Matt Williamson added another item to his racing resume Tuesday night. Following the race's lap 46 invert, the 2019 Super Dirt Car Series champion passed Tim Sears Jr. 5 laps later and held on to win the Don Davies New York Modified 76 Tuesday night, earning his first series win at the Great Race Place. Williamson beat Friesen by 0.2 of a second for his 25th Super Dirt Car Series feature win. Williamson now leads the points, 7 ahead of Anthony Perego. The series will be in action next at Land of Legends on July 4th. David Gravel grabbed another win at the first of 2 nights at Knoxville Raceway back on June 14th. Parker Price Miller and Rico Abreu finished on the podium, while the win was the 9th for the series points leader in gravel. Night 2 of the Premier Chevy Dealers Clash went to Corey Day, who outdueled Logan Schuart and Donnie Schatz to score his first win at Knoxville. Schatz finished 2nd, while some guy named Kyle Larson drove up from 13th to finish in the 3rd spot. One more from the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars to tell you about as they contested the Hussett's High Bank Hustle on June 19th. Tyler Courtney picked up the win ahead of Ryan Timms, who led 15 laps on the night. Aaron Rutzel finished 3rd after starting 2nd. The NOS Energy World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series is back in action June 28th and June 29th from Cedar Lake. Only one high-limit Sprint Car Series event to tell you about. Lake Ozark Speedway held the 4th annual Beach Brawl on June 26th, with Corey Day coming out on top after starting 15th. The California Sprint Car sensation beat Justin Peck and Spencer Basin, winning $20,000 for the effort. Brad Sweet still maintains the top spot in points ahead of Tyler Courtney and Brent Marks. That's your race report for this week. If there are any other series, tracks, drivers you think I should be covering in the race report, please reach out at SODS_pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok, or shoot over an email to southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com. And with that wraps up the race report. Lots to talk about there as we were off last week. I've been doing these extra podcasts for the Vansicle Pet Value Store and the Lundy's Lane Pet Value Store as they're celebrating Pet Awareness Month, and timing just didn't quite work out. We tried to have Cody Higby on last week too, and he had to cancel once again. So we'll see if we can track down Cody later in the year, a guy I got to know from the iRacing series that I was calling last winter, the formerly known as the BRP iRacing series. I don't think we have a new name for it yet, but stay tuned for details on that, as I think it's going to return in some form or another next year. Now, we should get into the sticker star. I've already had a few people come up and buy some Southern Ontario Dirt Show stickers, and this is the deal. If you're a driver or you're associated with a driver, you buy one of our Southern Ontario Dirt Show stickers, throw it somewhere on the race car, you're going to get an interview, you're going to get a full-on photo shoot, we'll call it. And I'm not the best with taking photos, but I'm going to make sure that I can get the best angles of your race car featuring our decal out on the racetrack, or at least pit side. And the first one this week, we're going with Rob Disher. Now, Robbie Disher, Hoosier stock driver at Merrittville. I think he's been around at a few different racetracks, but really focusing on Merrittville this year. He had the Southern Ontario Dirt Show sticker on the race car before the season even started, before I even launched this program. He had it on the car at the Penn Center Mall show that happened. If you're in and around the Niagara region, you know that Merrittville Speedway likes to put some of their race cars on display at our local shopping center, the Niagara Penn Center. And yeah, that was a real surprise to me. I was super happy that Robbie decided to do that. So we caught up with Robbie. That full interview and all the photos are going to be up on social media by the time this podcast goes out. So you can check that out again at SODS_pod. But let's get to the interview right now with Robbie Disher. All right, I am in the pits with Mr. Robbie Disher, who pilots the number 17. He is our inaugural sticker star because he's got the Southern Ontario Dirt Show logo on the race car, Robbie, before the season even started, buddy.
Yes, I did. I was lucky to buy them off you last year and still had 2 left over. So when the car got relettered, I put them on to put it in the mall show, just to shock everybody.
Well, I appreciate you representing for the podcast. Talk to us a little bit about this beautiful 17. I like calling it almost like the Pepsi Challenger kind of paint scheme, right?
Yeah, you're right. It's the old 1983 Darrell Waltrip paint scheme. I like the old school paint schemes, and next year's gonna have a totally different one again.
Well, it's been kind of an up and down year for you. I just got here. You just talked to me putting a new motor in this thing, or you just did put a new motor in it. Talk to us about what your goals are. You're one of those low buck guys who just keeps showing up and filling up this field and always having some pretty stellar runs with tighter budgets than some of your other competitors.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself. Like you said, I'm a low budget guy. I buy used tires off the guys. I build my own home built motors. I build the car myself, maintain it, and I'm pretty proud of what I have. Like, for considering I don't have the big budgets like some of these guys have, I'm pretty proud of myself, what I've done with it, and I'm pretty sure my sponsors are happy with me too.
Yeah, and you got a well-decaled car besides our own, so who else helps you get to the racetrack every week?
Exclusive Imprint, Crunch Fitness out of Welland, Fun Hill Food Truck, Stack Pancake House out of Port Colborne, and the Rowe Brothers from St. Anne's. They're a long time. They used to be competitors here years ago, and we've been friends for years, and they've helped me out for the last 3 or 4 years, and I really appreciate everything everybody does.
Well, there you go, Robbie. Keep her going in the Hoosier stocks all year long and keep representing for Southern Ontario Dirt Show. Thanks for carrying our logo, buddy.
No problem, anytime.
Folks from Van Sickle Pet Value and PV on the Lane aren't just fans of your favorite four-legged friends, they are race fans too. That's why Jeff and Rhonda Riley, as well as their staff, have teamed up with Merrittville Speedway to make your race day experience more convenient. Race fans can now pick up tickets for race nights while grabbing the highest quality food, treats, toys, and accessories for their pets from the St. Catharines and Niagara Falls locations. Beat the box office and the crowds. Their support of local racing doesn't just stop with you, the race fan. Catch the Van Sickle Pet Value PV on the Lane 4 cylinders racing at Merrittville Speedway throughout the 2024 season. Check out Van Sickle Pet Value across from Best Buy and Walmart on 4th Avenue in St. Catharines, and PV on the Lane at the corner of Kayla Road and Lundy's Lane, Highway 20. So no major interview for this week on the podcast, but there are a couple news items and notes that I made through the week that I really wanted to get into. Some announcements that I haven't had a chance to talk about. We'll start in the world of Ohsweken Speedway. July 11th, that's the first of, I believe, 2 nights this year for the NASCAR Canada Series. Didn't call it Pinty Series that time, so I'm kind of proud of myself. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one. But Chase Briscoe, NASCAR Cup Series star, currently driving with Stuart Haas Racing, recently announced as the replacement for Martin Truex Jr. for Joe Gibbs starting in 2025, which means probably next to no dirt racing for Chase Briscoe going forward. As we know, Joe Gibbs does not like to let his drivers go race anything besides NASCAR. Although, I guess NASCAR Canada Series, does that count? He's not doing the sprint cars while he's here. But anyways, Chase Briscoe is going to be in the field racing with the NASCAR Canada Series July 11th at Ohsweken Speedway as part of the show there. Can't wait for that. That's super cool that they were able to get Chase to come up for this one. Looking forward to it. All the details on tickets and everything else, Ohsweken Speedway's website has got the information on that, and you can see the Facebook page as well for the announcement about Chase Briscoe coming up north of the border to come and race at Ohsweken Speedway. The Ontario Dirt Committee, Competition Committee. So the ODCC, almost messed up the acronym. The ODCC kind of launched a bit of a controversial rule change, we'll call it, for mini stocks. I've got the bulletin here that you can see, OntarioDirtComp.com. That's the link to their website where you can find all the news bulletins about the different rules for the ODCC, who, of course, they set the rules package for Merrittville Speedway, for Ohsweken Speedway, I believe South Buxton as well, and maybe even Brighton's rule package as well. Don't quote me on that one. I'm trying to remember what I saw on Facebook for how many spots follow the ODCC rules. I do believe Brighton is on that because they would be involved in the duel on the dirt. Anyways, June 24th, they dropped this one. Upon review of the 2009-2010 Chevrolet Cobalt Pontiac Pursuit G5 allowed under ODCC rules 2.6 in the mini stock rules, we are deciding to disallow these engines as they are equipped with variable valve timing and proven to be over-competitive. We passed around a few ideas to keep these cars racing, but it was decided that it's better to disallow them as there's not too many on the track yet. Teams who are racing with this engine have 2 weeks to switch to an older non-VVT engine before they will be allowed to compete. It will also be acceptable to install an older 2005 to 2008 engine wiring computer into the 2009-2010 body style. So I'm not the most technical guy here, okay? I'm not going to pretend like I know how to rip out an engine or what certain problem parts do. So I actually leaned on a friend who's a mechanic, and because this is mini stocks and 4 cylinders, it's not like these are, built engines, so to speak. These are, pieces that you can kind of go to the junkyard and rip out, by my understanding, and put into your race car to make perform. So I asked my buddy Connor to explain variable valve timing. Why is it an advantage? Well, at higher RPM, it moves the camshaft, allowing for more top-end power by playing with the timing computer. The computer will advance it and add more fuel to the air. Honda's VTEC is a prime example of it. And of course, 2009-2010 Cobalts, Pursuits, and G5s also use something similar to what the VTEC power does. And that seems to be why engines from that year might be, I don't want to say dominating the mini stocks, because I don't even think they are dominating the mini stocks, at least not in my experience. We've seen at Merrittville, for example, kind of a pretty split amount of winners this year. I mean, I saw Ken Hare share the post that initially went up on Merrittville Speedway's Facebook page about all this, and he's got 2 wins, and he doesn't run this engine. We saw Braden Cuse, or was it Sean Cuse? It might have been Sean Cuse, actually. I think Sean Cuse picked up a win a couple weeks ago in the mini stocks in a V-Dub Bug. Not a Pontiac Pursuit, not a Chevy Cobalt, a V-Dub Bug won in the mini stock. So is there a competitive advantage? I guess probably. If you're making top-end power, that's definitely going to help you on the straightaways. Yeah. There's parts of this rule change that I don't love. Like, for example, I don't love the fact that we're making this rule change in the middle of the season. I don't see why this rule change had to come into effect now, right? Like, I get it. They got at least 2 weeks to switch to an older non-VVT engine. Now, 2 weeks is a pretty decent amount of time. But again, it's a full-on engine swap. And these guys in mini stocks, it's not like they're dedicated race teams. They're not modified drivers that are spending money on open motors or on, uh, on Wagner's. It, is this really something that had to happen now? I don't know. Is there a competitive advantage? You can't really deny it. However, drivers find ways around this. Could more ballast be added to the race cars to fix the power problem? Is there other things that could have been done? I know that the ODCC says they explored the rule and there's more things they could have done, or maybe things that they've tried that haven't quite worked out. I get all that. But I just don't like the idea of having to tell a team, hey, you got to go to the junkyard, you got to go wherever and go get yourself a whole other new engine. I just don't like that. This could have been made at the beginning of the year. I think everybody knew about the variable valve timing problem and the advantage that it had. So I just don't see why that has to come up now that we're pushing into July. I think it could have been saved for the end of the year, but that's just me. I just don't like rule changes like that in the middle of the season. I think that puts an unnecessary burden on race teams that I just don't want to see. So beyond that, Merrittville, we got to talk about the modifieds. We have to talk about the inmates are running the asylum at Merrittville Speedway. We have drivers pulling over trying to officiate races and call out contact and call out penalties and all this sort of stuff. We've got drivers who are exacting revenge. We've got drivers who feel as though they've been wronged and are acting upon it. Where I've been watching the last couple features, I've been going back and watching it because it all seems to float around one particular driver. That's Gary Lindberg. We know Gary is an aggressive driver. He's not always a dirty driver. Have there been moves that I've watched where I thought, yeah, that was questionable? Yes. And I mean, the tower has agreed. We just saw it where he received a penalty for the way he raced, I believe it was Noah Walker at the end of the race. Passed him, not cleanly, went back a spot. But do the penalties need to be stiffer? Do penalties actually incentivize these guys to cool it? Because I don't even know if any of this stuff is penalty-wise. I just think it's guys driving over their heads trying to get too much too soon. Where's the give and take? You're modifieds. You're not running a 15-lap feature like a mini stock race. You guys have 35 laps to sort it out. We watched a double feature this past weekend. In the first feature, there was however many incidents in the first 10, 15 laps. Final 20 laps ran green after we knocked 10 cars out of the field. So to me, that tells me that everybody who's clashing in this just needs to take a breath. Again, super easy for me to say as I watch from the tower with a microphone in front of my face, as opposed to actually strapping on the helmet and being in the race car. I know the driver mentality changes. I understand that. But I just feel like those that we have seen be great in any kind of racing know how to manage a race and have good race management. And that usually means not immediately driving over your heads. And I think we see that on display even from the drivers who are deemed aggressive. Brad Rouse gets talked about how he's driven in the past, how he still continues to drive sometimes. But I've seen Brad have fantastic runs, and generally when Brad's having a great run, it's because he has used his veteran knowledge of being patient to get himself forward in the field. He doesn't let himself get rattled by whatever's going on, keeps his nose clean, and he ends up with a great top 5, maybe top 3. Heck, he might even get towards a win. That's just the blueprint for anybody, veteran or not. Be patient. And yes, I know it can be hard to be patient because some other guy might run all over the back of you and then you're fired up. Like, there's so many variables, and I understand it. But I just feel as though the 358 modifieds at Merrittville are the top class. They are the top of the top on Saturday nights. Why are they not acting like it? Why are they not driving like it? That's the question. And I don't necessarily have an answer to it. I obviously, if I was driver coaching or whatever, I'd preach give and take. I'd preach the length of the race, 35 laps. Again, it can go by fast. Assuming we don't get yellows, things get spread out. You lose track position buried in the field really easily, over a 35 lap run. but I just wonder if we can get some more give and take out there, especially early in a feature. You know what? I don't mind if we're piling them up with 20 laps on the board, but when there's 2 laps on the board and we keep getting yellow after yellow after yellow because guys won't cut each other a break, I just wonder. I just wonder if there's something that can be done there from the driver's standpoint. Obviously, I think vice versa. I think the track and the officials also have to step their game up a little bit. I think we're pushing into July. I don't think there should be if it was me, there'd be no warnings when it comes to restart violations. You jump, automatic, go back a spot. You jump again, maybe it's 2 spots. Jump a third time, tail. Let's start getting it through these guys' heads. You can't jump a restart. You can't play games, all this sort of stuff. Let's iron this stuff down with some calls. Let's make some calls. What difference does it make? Everybody's already mad out of the race car anyways. They're mad at each other. They're mad at the other drivers. They're mad at the tower. They're mad at officials. What difference does it make if you make the call? Make the call. That's just how I feel a little bit about that. I don't know. We'll see. We got another double feature night coming up this Saturday. Hopefully we get it in. The weather report is not looking great for Merrittville Speedway this Saturday. I am optimistic, though, because we've seen other times where the weather report hasn't looked good and we've been able to squeeze in shows. So we'll see what the Canada Day weekend brings for us. But Saturday not looking great. Sunday, Humberstone Speedway going to be back in action. I'm not going to be there on the call. Stephen Petty's going to have the call of that one. It's the All-Canadian on Sunday night. Go and check that one out. It's the first of the final 5 at Humberstone Speedway. So a little bit of news out of the Ransomville world that I wanted to touch on. It was announced this past week, I believe it was, the Sportsman West Region event on May 31st. Results are official from that one. There was a tire test done. All tires passed the Hoosier Tire benchmark after an independent lab tested them. Emphasis on independent lab. Not Blue Ridge. Take that for what it's worth. A little other news here. I should point out that's actually good for our friends Cody McPherson and Adam Leslie, 2 Canadians who were on the podium in that one, including Cody McPherson, who just keeps on winning. Like, I don't know, has Cody lost a sportsman race yet? He hasn't lost one at Merrittville yet. I don't think he's lost one at Ransomville yet. Maybe he has. I'm not 100% sure on that one. But Cody McPherson has just been on an absolute tear in the sports. I mean, he's winning these tour races, the Central Region races, the Western Region. He's just on a different planet right now. I don't know when the conversation needs to be had, but it feels as though we are approaching Cody McPherson top 5 sportsman driver all time. Maybe. Is that crazy to say? You can let me know at SODS_POD. Reach out to us on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Where is Cody McPherson at? What does he need to do to get towards being considered maybe the best sportsman driver all time? Again, there's probably a few of you guys listening that have way more understanding of the history, of the knowledge of past results. Who are we putting Cody up against? For me, I've only really been covering the sport the last 5 years. Beyond that, I've just been kind of a fan. And a casual fan at that. So I haven't had the chance to have the stats in front of me. However, I actually want to pull this up. Statsman Fran, you might know him from Merrittville Speedway, Ransomville Speedway, Humberstone as well. He always does a great job giving us all kinds of stats, all kinds of news. And he sent me a website here. I'm going to try to pull it up now on the show. So Fran sent me a website. It's part of Dirt Track Digest, actually. There's a racing organization, ARRA. They've got a list of all the Merrittville Speedway winners tracked throughout history through the ARRA website. So I'd say check that one out. It's on dirttrackdigest.com. That's where somebody posted this ARRA website. And I'm going to spend some time exploring it on my own time. To kind of go through some results, see what I can kind of come up with, in terms of legendary status and things like that. Maybe it'll give me better context for some of the stuff we're seeing from guys like Cody McPherson and other drivers who have been on dominant streaks. One more thing I wanted to touch on before we get out of here, as we are pushing up on 45 minutes in this episode. We're around 40 minutes, I guess, in this episode. Wanted to talk about the invert from the Super Dirt Car Series. I had a few people talk to me about this, and some folks even kind of called it like they said it was gimmicky without calling it gimmicky. Comparing it to like stage racing for NASCAR, comparing it to like a short track Super Series event. I guess the way it worked, so there was 2 segments from the recent Don Davies 76 for the Super Dirt Car Series. First segment, that is where all the points were awarded after 46 laps, I believe it was. All the points were awarded for there. So Matt Williamson takes over the points lead after finishing third in that first segment. That's where the points were handed out. Then he goes on and gets the money. There was a redraw, a pill draw done. Was either going to invert 4 cars, 6 cars, 8 cars. Ended up being 6 cars that got inverted. Top 6 flipped their spots, right? And it's not that I don't like this. I just question if it needed to be a points event. I'm all for a fun, cool format, but I don't know if I like in-race weird changes that can dictate things. Again, inverting 6 cars isn't really the end of the world. It kind of put Yankowski at a pretty tough disadvantage. I mean, you go from winning that first segment back to 6th. It could have been even worse. It could have gone back to 8th. Could have been better. Could have gone to 4th, and maybe it wouldn't have made any difference. But the inversion in a points event, I just wonder about whether it was necessary. Was it fun? Sure, but it's a points event. I just feel like if we're gonna have points racing, keep it straight up, keep it honest, just run a straight 76 laps. Whatever. I've just never been a fan of adding any kind of weird gimmicks to actual point paying events. That's just me. You can let me know at SODS_pod. Reach out, Southern Ontario Dirt Show at gmail.com as well if you want to reach out and just let me know what your thoughts and feelings are on having a weird invert like that in the middle of a points paying event for the Super Dirt Car Series. Again, it didn't really end up mattering all that much in terms of points at the end of the day because the points were awarded after 46 laps. But who knows what those other 30 laps could have brought in terms of handing out points without the inversion. Could have had mechanical failures, could have had accidents, could have really shaped and changed the points for a lot of different guys, a lot of different drivers. So it's one that I'm interested about. If I get the chance, I'm going to try to talk to maybe Dean Reynolds about it or anybody from Super Dirt Car Series, what their thoughts and feelings are on that particular event. And it was still neat that they tried it. I always appreciate series trying things, but I got a bad taste about that particular thing for a points paying event. I think that's going to wrap up where we are at for the podcast this week. No guests, like I say, it's been a busy week for me, busy couple weeks. I'm going to try to get back to doing some guests over the next week or so. I'm covering for Ash on the midday show over on Hits FM at my other gigs. So I got some more time on my hands next week to book in some interviews. I'm actually recording this on a Thursday, so I'm getting ready to head to Ransomville Speedway to call the go-karts tonight. Looking forward to that. Hopefully going to be getting into a go-kart and racing again later this year. That's another project that's the wheels are starting to turn on. More details to come, I guess, on that. But for now, yeah, looking forward to that and hopefully getting out to Merrittville Speedway on Saturday. Maybe even I'll get myself over to Humberstone if I can on Sunday night as well to go and be a spectator for the first of 5 final nights at Humberstone Speedway this year. Appreciate all the following, all the attention, all the love on socials at SODS_POD. Make sure you share that sticker time program. If you are a driver or know somebody who would want to carry the Southern Ontario Dirt Show sticker, let us know and we will sort that out. Again, $5 gets you 1 sticker, 3 for $10. Put them on the race car. You get a shout out, you get an interview, and you get the chance to thank everybody that helps get you to the racetrack in front of our audience here on the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. My name is Jonathan Howe at Jonathan On Air. That's where you find me on the socials at SODS_POD, where you find the Sods pod out there on the socials as well. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show podcast. And the checkered is out on another episode of the Southern Ontario Dirt Show presented by Van Sickle Pet Value and Lundy's Lane Pet Value. Like what you hear? Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Connect with us on Facebook at Southern Ontario Dirt Show, or find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SODS_pod. Have a question for the show? Email us at southernontariodirtshow@gmail.com. Thanks for supporting local racing in Southern Ontario, and we'll see you at the track.